I recently traveled to Boston, Massachusetts to check out the city's newest public water access site, the P&G Gillette Public Pier and Dock, located on the Fort Point Channel in South Boston. The new dock affords paddlers great access to the channel, the harbor, and for experienced kayakers, the harbor islands. It's also a great example of how the city is encouraging participation in its waterfront resource, as resident kayaker Steve Hollinger explains. Hi, Tom Richardson for Boating Local, and I'm here at the new Fort Point Pier and Dock. It's a new public access area for kayakers and other paddlers. I'm here with Steve Hollinger. He's been a champion of this project since its inception back in the early days of the Big Dig. Steve, tell us a little bit about how this thing came about. How did the dock come about?
Well, it came about 10 years ago. There were a number of parallel processes going on. There was the Big Dig cutting through here to build the connection to the Logan Airport under the Fort Point Channel. There was also the Boston Redevelopment Authority was sponsoring what they call the Watershed Activation Plan. They developed a plan for activating this watershed. And also at the same time, Gillette had bought this property here from the Boston Wharf Company, a vacant lot. And along with this vacant lot, when it was capped by the central artery, Gillette was required to bring the property in compliance with the state waterways regulations. I know it sounds complicated, but basically Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection required Gillette to give back to the public, under the Tidelands regulations, some public amenity in order to bring these properties into compliance.
Right.
So this dock and pier were part of that set of requirements for Gillette in order to be in compliance.
Right, so Gillette, P&G Gillette built it, and they're in charge of maintaining it.
That's correct.
And that sort of thing.
They own it, they have to maintain it, and it has to be 100% public.
That's great. Well, yeah. It's a great facility, and it's certainly a well-built dock, and they have a beautiful metal gangway coming down, real wide, so you can easily get your kayaks down the ramp, and this big floating dock, which is just beautiful, and it has lots and lots of room for a whole group of paddlers to sort of get underway here and get ready to go.
Absolutely. You have a ramp 5 feet wide at the opening, the gangway is 5 feet wide. You can wheel a kayak down one person, you can easily portage your kayak down with 2 people. It really is very easy to bring a kayak down.
There are 4 parking spaces reserved for users of the pier, but there's no enforcement and the signs are usually ignored. That means you'll have to pull up next to the pier and unload your gear before parking in the lot. Once you're launched, a world of urban paddling adventure opens up, especially for the more experienced kayaker. Well, Steve, we were talking a little bit earlier about the type of kayaking that's available from this site. Now, a lot of people are going to want to come down here and probably bring their kayaks right away after seeing this. But as you mentioned, that it's really it's more appropriate for a higher level of a paddler with a higher level of experience, right?
Well, I'd say this particular basin is probably okay for someone above a beginner level. Definitely not a beginner level, because first of all, if you fall in this basin, there are no shores. There's only seawalls. So you have to kind of find a place where there's a dock or something to scramble over to. So I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner. I would say probably above a beginner level. This basin is usually calm, usually very few power boats, and so it's appropriate for above beginner. As far as going into the inner harbor, which is right down here, I would never venture into the inner harbor unless I was moderate to advanced in terms of, because the inner harbor can be really choppy. It can,
Well, you got a lot of boat traffic there too, and that's the wakes kick up a lot of stuff, and you can get yourself into some trouble if you don't know what you're doing.
That's correct. It generally is choppy, maybe 2-foot seas, 1-foot seas. It's pretty busy. So not a place for beginners, not even above beginner. I would say someone who has a reasonable skill level. If you're just around a moderate paddler, you could paddle along the coast, go to the north end, go toward the Charles River. Now, if you want to go into the Charles River, what I understand, I haven't done it yet, but I understand they'll actually let kayaks into the locks. I haven't seen that.
That would be an interesting experience. Maybe we'll come back and film that.
Yes, definitely.
You were telling me earlier that this is really a temporary structure, and they're going to actually do more in this area, right?
That's correct. Despite the fact this dock and pier are incredibly substantial, beautifully constructed, it's actually seen as a temporary structure. The reason being, Gillette bought a huge vacant parcel from the former owner, the Boston Wharf Company, and that project will be developed in the next 10, 20 years with a lot of new development. With new development, any property in Boston or Massachusetts on the Tidelands is required to contribute back as a public amenity, contribute to the public good. These are Tidelands regulations because this is formerly part of Boston Harbor where we're standing. So with that new development, this dock and pier will eventually grow in size, still public use, possibly a boathouse, possibly a much larger dock. I think the term we're calling it is channel walk,
right,
which will be a walk along the channel on the water surface.
Well, it's a great use of the resource, and yeah, I mean, what a great way to enjoy downtown Boston. Come here, bring your kayak. Now, currently the rules state that it's a sunrise to sunset window where you're allowed to use the pier and dock, right?
That's correct.
You can't do it at night. I think it's mostly for safety reasons. They don't have proper lighting right now, I think, and security possibly.
That's right. Right now the dock is open from dawn to dusk, and because there are a lot of kayak fishermen interested in coming out at night, and I, for one, my company manufactures navigation lights for kayaks, am advocating really strongly to have a few evening hours, maybe Friday nights, Saturday nights, to be able to come out on the basin at night. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to come out here.
Yeah.
But I discussed a little bit with Gillette yesterday. We had a Conservation Commission meeting which I went to, talked to Gillette. It seems like there's some flexibility in terms of the future, so I think the prospects are pretty good if advocacy keeps up.
That's great. Well, you heard it from Steve. If you're interested in seeing this place open up to a lot more than just kayakers, other boaters may be able to use this facility, but make sure that it stays a public access facility to all boaters. Stay informed. We'll give you that information right on Boating Local's website.
I have one more thing to say about that.
Okay, go for it.
As a boater also, I mean, I've had a whaler for the last 13 years, kept it in South Boston on a mooring at the Boston Harbor Yacht Club, and as a boater, there's a prohibition right now on boaters accessing this dock. There's really no reason that boaters should be prohibited from a touch and go, dropping off someone, picking up somebody here. So I think with advocacy from the boating groups like your group and from the boaters themselves, I think we could see a change in that. We just need more people engaged.
That's right. It's all about involvement. So again, we'll keep you posted on boatinglocal.com on who to contact and how to keep this great facility open to as many boaters as we can. Well, thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for the
Tom.
lowdown on the new Fort Point Pier and Dock. Come on down, see it for yourself, or better yet, bring your kayak here and use it.
Come on down.
That's what it's there for.
Take pictures.
Tom Richardson for Boating Local. Thanks for watching.
All right.